here at the CloudFactory Summit in Boston, and today we have with us one of my favorite persons, Dr. Nic. That's what you call yourself, right?
Yeah,
just Dr. Nic.
I can't get my wife to call me that, but with the kids, I got the kids on board.
Kids also call you. Okay. What is the story behind his name?
So, I mean, I have a PhD, right? But it does turn out that was one of the sad things I discovered was people with PhDs don't call themselves doctor or something.
Right.
I thought that was the best bit. So I, you got to help the lay people appreciate. No,
Right.
it's fun. There's a number of CloudFactory people with PhDs who.
So you're not the only one.
Like Dr. Max, Dr. Jules, and they started to call themselves Dr. something because they realized, I got a PhD, I should be able to call myself Dr. something. It's just fun,
Well, it's not even a question, but what do you do in the cloud foundry space? What I mean?
So I'm the CEO of Stark & Wayne. So Stark & Wayne was created to be a CloudFactory consultancy back in 2012. So we predate Pivotal by a small bit.
Right.
6 years ago, almost 6 years exactly, was when I first saw Bosch. I went to VMware's building down Palo Alto and saw Bosch open
And you
source.
fell in love with it?
Yeah, because I understood the problems it was solving.
Right.
Like at that point, I worked at a company where we were building our own Gen 2 e-builds. And there was all this mystique and process and laborious manual work. And Bosch releases just compiled. We had a whole system for building AMIs and base images. And we had none of that. And here it was, a complete open source system that did it. And then did resurrection and the whole life cycle of owning and operating a system. And I understood how important that was. And so I started talking about it. Unfortunately, not everyone understands the problem, so that is, they come along. And, but yeah, so Bosch and then CloudFactory. So I was a Heroku user back when 10 years ago when it sort of started coming out, and then I worked at Engineered. So I've been deploying apps like it's trivial for 10 years. So I sometimes don't appreciate why people don't understand that this is a desirable. This is the goal. The goal is to be able to deploy quickly. The goal is to be able to iterate. The goal is to be able to get feedback from users. The goal is to be as close to the business problem as possible. Anyway, and because I've been doing it for a decade.
Right.
And I don't live inside a large organization that says no a lot. I'm talking to the Azure people working on Service Fabric. And while Service Fabric might be new to the public,
right.
It dates 20 years. Like the original articles they've got inside Microsoft talking about it is 20 years. The version that runs Azure and everything is sort of 10, 12 years old. Right. But the timelining this stuff and keeping your head around.
It becomes tricky. Since you have been tracking CloudFactory from early days, CloudFactory actually predates Docker.
It does.
It
Warden.
does.
People say, why don't you use Docker? Well,
exactly.
We have something.
Yes. So how do you see the evolution of CloudFactory? Because sometimes people say, oh, is PaaS even relevant these days? So how do you see the evolution?
So there are people who have a smaller scope of what they're trying to solve, right? If you can bring up machines and you just need to get some containers running, then you might think Kubernetes solves your problem. Maybe it does. But the problem I solve, Stark & Wayne is helping our customers solve, is they want an experience that can be managed entirely as security models and organizational models and a level of confidence around who's allowed to do what. And CloudFactory sets that bar. It says CF push, you're allowed to CF push certain places and not others. You're allowed to see certain things and not others. And not just at CF push, your containers are all isolated internally. I spent 5 years evolving the networking model between containers. So a lot of it's, and then there's the life cycle of the security model. There's the 3 R's, repave, reboot, and rotate, of trying to platformatize a top-level security model so that you don't have to accidentally say silly things on Twitter that become, contextually, at the time we speak, what was it, last week was T-Mobile support lady said, oh no, we do security by having great people. It's like, oh my Lord, you've just opened a terrible can of worms, and everyone started, finding all their security holes because they just became a white hat target and probably a black hat target. But yeah, so we because we get to control the entire experience downwards, as from an internal operator experience, we get to give everyone a good security model. Everyone gets, because we're not taking Docker images. Okay, CloudFactory can take Docker images, but the build pack model of your bespoke code plus a build pack plus a root FS means that as operators, we can keep rotating the new versions of Ruby, the new versions of Go, the new versions of Java, and the new OS patches from Ubuntu or wherever, SUSE, and we can make sure that everyone's apps are continually upgraded to a security model. And you get the two phases. You get the phase where apps are actively developed, 10 times a day people are CF pushing, or more likely these days you have CI systems CF pushing. I don't know why CI would be typing, but anyway, what's the robot doing? Like CI typing CF push. And then there's the second phase where apps become more stable, but they still need that operator, love, and you get a standard from an operator's perspective. It's standard. Everything behaves the same way, as opposed to bespoke clusters of Docker and Chef and Puppet that evolve over time. So you've got the newest thing you've deployed, and it's got the best patterns from 2018, but all the other ones age, because you keep them all up to date the same way.
Right.
You have every intention to, but you never get back to them. And then back to the developers. So if you're a web developer, you're an independent shop. If you've ever learned how to CF push, you can work for GE or SAP or any company that's using CloudFactory. Every keynote that's been given is an advert for places how to deploy apps to. Bespoke, interesting ways that apps get deployed. So if you're an efficient consultancy or an efficient individual, you can go to those places and they will value how efficient and effective you are. So I think it's an exciting time to be a web developer and to be building back-end apps.
I was sitting through a media dinner that there are two big companies. They said they are still looking for developers because there is a big gap, supply and demand. Right. So at one point you're saying that all these big companies, when they where you can work, right. and these kind of conferences, if the presence, the huge presence of develop. So is there still
so there's probably a technology.
What is the reason?
There is a technology aspect of being open to having why do people pick Spring and Java? Because there's a lot more developers perhaps. Right? Similarly, why would you pick CloudFactory? Because anyone can learn to use it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But really there is the other part, which is your procurement and hiring. Do you force people to have to come to your town to work on site, or do you have a remote working situation that actually works for your organization? Do you pay people promptly?
Right.
Like some companies start with 120-day billing for consultants. Like that's just rude.
Right.
And so if you don't respect people, they don't want to work for you. So there is still always the human aspect of hiring and retaining people that you want to work with.
Since you talked about company, what is the story behind the name Stark? Is it Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne, or what?
It is. So it's
because I saw the cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon. The T-shirt is way too obvious. For 5 years, we've all the motifs and all the associations have been vague, and it's more of a fun game for people to come up and go, is that Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne? I thought it was. So I've thoroughly enjoyed. So this T-shirt's probably a little too obvious for that. But yeah, so the back when it was just me, 5.5 years ago, I knew I didn't want it to be just me. So I didn't want it to be Dr. Nic and Associates or anything.
This is funny that your company name is Stark and Wayne, and then your Dr. Nic is like totally out of Marvel universe, So I don't know if it's DC. I don't know if it's DC or Marvel, but
whereas
something.
Dr. Doom, he's on his own.
On top. Dr. Disaster is on top. Yes.
And
you should start a cartoon series also. It will become very.
I had done some talks when I was doing Rails and CloudFactory. I'd go on to walk on music. To me, it's a show, right? You're getting a show, and if you're on TV, the band plays and you walk on. And I always thought walk on music was the best.
Right.
And so I've had various different walk on ideas, and one of them I did at a conference many years ago when Iron Man 2 came out. I actually let my facial hair grow, and this is a long time before Stark and Wayne. I'd done this Tony Stark sort of walk on, so that idea had sort of formed before I liked the idea of having two founders who are tech billionaires, and fictional is just, I find, highly entertaining.
Do you also have, a secret room in your home where you keep all your, shields and
That's right. I've been playing Far Cry
Armored.
5, and I'm pretty excited by the
you're
idea of
playing
having
it?
an underground bunker. I want one of those survival bunkers.
I just finished the Zero Dawn Horizon or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Zero Dawn. That's
Yeah, and I'm planning to, but I had to come to this conference, and I love Nintendo Switch because you can bring it with you.
Yeah.
PlayStation.
Oh, you play the Switch? Oh, okay.
I have Switch also. I have still not killed the Ganon. And I'm into 3D printing, so I have 3D printed the Zelda sword and Horizon, everything. Yep. And I think we are getting totally away from the topic, but that's the fun part also.
Underground bunkers, I want one.
Yes.
My wife is not going to be thrilled when the excavator comes in. But
I have.
That was never explained in the game.
I have
of why so many people got them.
Yeah.
Yet there's no businesses building and servicing underground bunkers.
Right. I have watched the whole walkthrough for the 13 hours. I have not played it. I just wanted. I'm not a first-person shooter kind of person, but I will be playing it once I go back. I hope my wife is not watching this video, but she doesn't know I play games, and I work from home, so I can play games whenever I want. Anyway, back to the name of the company.
That is the weirdest thing to keep secret from your wife.
I can. She doesn't know that I have an Xbox.
She knows I smoke, but I'm not letting her know I play computer games.
No, I quit smoking. She doesn't know I have an Xbox. Now she knows. She doesn't know I have an Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo.
What is that thing?
Yeah. Because I work from home, but I have my own office, which I call Indian Embassy. So Americans are not allowed there. She's American, so she's not allowed.
You go to the Indian Embassy to go and play computer games. That's
no, my office in my home is called Indian Embassy. So you cannot just enter like that. You know, it's my domain. I am the owner of this place. Back to you, not about me. You talked about Stark and Wayne, billionaire company. What is your business model? Are you billionaire?
So we have one consultancy. So people want to run CloudFactory.
Right.
Right. We have not focused on apps. We have not focused because lots of people can build apps.
Yes.
And my hope and dream was that whether it's ThoughtBot down the road or anyone that knows how to build web apps should be allowed to work for large companies. This is my hope and dream.
Right.
And my hope and dream is that people work for large companies directly have an enjoyable life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we focused on helping organizations bring CloudFactory and make that a stable service. Because also the other goal is to try to push back the tide of shadow IT. So shadow IT is where you work at a large company, you can't get anything from your IT organization, but you have a credit card.
Right.
And so you go to Amazon or you go to Dell. Dell's probably the original shadow IT story, right? Send a fax to Dell and they'll send you machines and all the SaaS products. And so if you're going to be corporate IT, there's a pretty high bar of service offering. Not just about that it works, but that if you answer support tickets, that you can teach them, that you can provide a facility that they can be excited by and they're happy to come to work. That's the bar you've got to compete with if you're going to do corporate IT. And you've got to stop saying no. You've got to start helping your organization achieve their business goals, not stop them from doing things. And that goes for security people. There's a phrase I say, which it's not mine. I do not know where I heard it, but the joke about security people, which is, my job's not done until you can't do your job. So I love, Stark and Wayne is the idea of helping organizations bring this to their people. So we'll do installs, and then either we'll run it for them, managed service, or we'll seed their initial operations platform team, the platform operations team, so that they start to get understanding of what is Bosch, or what is, if they're a Pivotal customer, what is Pivotal CloudFactory, if they're IBM Clouds on-prem. And they'll start to learn the tools, they'll start to be excited, and they'll start to become self-learning. And then we can roll off and help someone else. So, and we've been doing that since 2012, 2013, or 2013 was our first sort of CloudFactory 2 Bosch customer.
So what is the organization? You started alone, you said before.
Yep.
So what is the organizational structure of the company?
We have some great, the leaders of Stark and Wayne are pretty lucky. And if they watch this, that's great, but there's not, I'm just really lucky that we found at the right time, the right people. So from, Brian, the COO who runs daily operations, and if you ever have interactions with Stark and Wayne commercially, you'll have met Brian, to Wayne, the CTO, and the rest of the delivery organization. We're becoming a pretty good consultancy in terms of becoming, consultants who either work remotely or have to go and do the song and dance and live in front of the customer. That is part of the trick, because we started as a technology focused. We like finding out how this works and then making it work for others. Stark and Wayne has had to transition from being techie people to more and more being consultants delivering a professional service. And that's
So, what kind of customers do you help? What kind of client? I mean, I am sure you cannot disclose too much about what.
We have, the website is a pretty good description.
Okay.
A lot of logos. There's some that have asked us to take logos off, and some don't know their logos are there yet.
Okay.
But I like to joke that we don't have Berkshire Hathaway in the top 5. Okay. I don't think any of our customers are Berkshire Hathaway subsidiaries, but most of a lot of the top 10 and the top 100 are. And either directly or through, we subcontract and help Pivotal with their success. And Pivotal's success is our success in many ways.
So you are more or less like a neutral body. It doesn't really matter what distribution people are using, right? It doesn't really matter whether you...
Any success of a platform, right? If there was another platform like CloudFactory, I'd look at supporting it. It's 2018 as we record this, and there is still nothing that provides that experience of, as a platform team, providing experience to your developer users and your ability to own and operate it with small groups. I mean, you watch user story after user story, as tedious as the user stories can be to watch. One of the things you hear over and over again is the scale at which they operate. Team of four operators supporting 1,000 developers, 7 operators, 10,000 developers and 100,000 apps, things like that. It's that sort of scale is what's, I think, super important about CloudFactory. So we completely lost track of the original question. The
original question was the structure of the company, which is I mean, you answered the question. The second was also about on the keynote day one of the users, they said when they asked about the challenge, one big challenge was that he said there are only kind of 2.
The vendor thing. So
look, so what is your
I mean, my origin is I saw Bosch on April 11, 2012, and I just invited myself into the VMware offices the next 2 days of the week. And so I got to meet the VMware people, Mark Lukowski and James Waters and everyone else that was in that group. And so as that moved into becoming Pivotal, I was fortunate to carry those relationships forward, and fortunate, as much as I wanted Bosch and CloudFactory to be super successful as a community, I got to be the person who was able to help Pivotal, as an independent person the most, and therefore they knew they could come to Stark and Wayne, and that just kept happening, and we got better and better and better, and so so we have a great relationship through Pivotal, and I mean, happy to help all the different ecosystems. They all, it's their customer, it's their ultimate success, and as long as I feel like we're helping that end developer that works at whatever their customer is, then we're all winning.
But do you think there are enough vendors, so there should be more diversity there? I don't know if you want to touch that question.
Yes, I would like, for all the foundation members that we have, their contribution is not proportionally equal to CloudFactory. Like, so Pivotal puts in hundreds of millions of dollars into CloudFactory every year.
Yes.
So do I want it to be more equal? Yes, and I want the other people to contribute more. Instead of just saying, all right, we'll take CloudFactory and try to sell it.
Right.
We as a 30-person organization, an engineering organization, obviously smaller than that, our contribution to direct to CloudFactory and to the Roger thing must be one of the highest per capita in our organization.
Right. So what kind of contribution are you making?
But Pivotal's contribution is the most important one.
So sometimes people actually look at CloudFactory as Pivotal's, but it's open.
They do a good job of trying to get people's attention to that. Yeah. Their IPO is on the same day as CF Summit. Right. All the Pivotal people just left to go to New York.
Exactly. And at the same time, it's open source, so meritocracy works. If you want to influence a project, put in more effort, and that's how it works.
Well, one of the things, I mean, this is one of the, in the early days, I had some clashes as Pivotal sort of took over from VMware, because to me it was an open source project, but to them it's a product that is open source, and that eventually I learned that, and I got to understand that, and so it's driven as a product company that is both open source, and they've learned to be open. So one of the great things about this as a product, if you buy Microsoft Windows, you have no visibility into how they make Windows.
Right.
I pick that as like the ultimate proprietary software, right? Even though I think it's been hacked and people can see it. But whereas if you get into the CloudFactory business and use it and pay for it, whether you pay Pivotal or not, pay anyone, I can walk you through how it's made.
Exactly.
I can introduce you to the PMs that own it and operate it, each of the parts. I can tell you the history of who's moved around so that you can get a better feel for why it gets built the way it gets built, the way that Pivotal pairs, right? So they rotate stuff, they'll have anchors, so there is some engineering leadership continuity, but a lot of the people that work on each project do move from project to project, which facilitates sharing of ideas, populating, so good ideas got populated faster, and they've, over time, 2013 was a bit weak, but 2014 onwards, they've gotten really good at bringing in pull requests. Even though their head's down on the task at hand, they still have a way of being interrupted to bring in pull requests to work with. Because if you're a person submitting a pull request, you're probably not full-time.
Right.
That means, like, now I live in Australia half the year, right? I sort of work here, visit, I'm in America now, but I'm go back to Australia. And so my pull requests are like a gift when you come to work in the morning. Like, oh, great, Nick's paying attention to my project this week, and as opposed to being in the same time zone iterating. And so, and I'm not alone, that's just my example.
Right.
But I think they do a great job of that process of bringing in work. But it is pretty transparent about how they build things. Perfect? No, but you can always ask more questions. The PMs are excited to talk to people about how their component works. And
so, looking at how deeply you are involved, what are the big challenge that you see is facing the CloudFactory Summit? Oh, sorry, not the summit, but the project, which they should solve as Kubernetes is coming in and all.
There's like an identity problem.
Okay.
Like the rest of the world seems to talk loudly about things that do less than CloudFactory. They're like, oh, should we be doing Kubernetes? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, that is not our story. Our story is helping developers rule the universe. Why are we worried about whether it's Docker or, 4 years ago it was like, oh, should we be doing Docker? 2 years ago, it's like, the last 2 years it's should we be doing Kubernetes? Like, our story is here. Let's stop worrying about, bring ideas in. Sure, Etsy and Envoy and things like that, Etsy and Envoy. The HashiCorp tools have come and gone and whatever from CloudFactory. And, it's how we make it is not as important as the service we provide to the people who use CloudFactory. So a little bit of identity crisis. I hear, a lack of pride about how awesome it is what we have. And it's like, it kind of is really good. So like, if we keep working on it, what should it be? So like, perhaps it doesn't need to be much different. It's really good. And because most of the features are like nuanced tweaks to optimize an experience, the core of what is CloudFactory is 5 years old and dates back in many ways to what is Heroku. So the idea of build packs, the idea of push to deploy, major innovations around that facing the user are going to be overlapping CI on top of it, pipelining, and just a more mature model of delivery, continuous delivery, which isn't really CloudFactory's to solve. It's pick your own CI system, of which there are many interesting. And yes, other than that, we have something that's pretty fantastic. I just like everyone to be a lot more excited by it.
Is it? Why is this identity crisis? Is it because, I mean, it's an open source project, so a lot of things that come there comes from either the community members or the stakeholders, which are the companies.
Ask me why? I don't know, because people hear something else and think I should be focusing on that.
Because if you look at OpenStack
CloudFactory
Foundation,
is also big, right?
Yes.
When Docker came out, if you said, do I want CloudFactory or do I want Docker? I was like, I get Docker. And I bet they don't get Docker. They got the idea of Docker. But Docker, even Docker Engine, and Docker Image are the core of what is, most of us been around for a while to think of as Docker. Not all that swarm and everything. But that is still very complicated.
Right.
And I bet you don't get it. All right? But you can make it work. Push, you can pull, you can Docker run, you can probably even exec and do some basic stuff. And with those basic tools, you can get to work.
Yeah, that's what Docker did. Right? They made it so easy for everybody to just,
feel like you're winning. I mean, I'm in production. I'm using Docker.
Immediately, yeah.
What have I done wrong? And you have done nothing wrong. Not at all. But that wasn't the goal of CloudFactory. The goal of CloudFactory is to say, we will give you a complete experience for binding to services, what your relationship is to a database and who runs that. Someone else's responsibility. Please don't put Mongo in a Docker container and things like that. Don't run databases. Your job is not to run databases. Just because you can.
Yes.
Please stop it. Let someone else care about that. And so yeah, I think we just need to be prouder of who our end customer is. So as much as I can bemoan user stories, they are the most important thing because they're what drive, remind us all who our end user is. I guess a lot of the user stories also talk about the organizational change because companies don't want to get rid of their CEO and put in a tech CEO. So it's like, all right, what else can we do without actually fixing the problem of having a tech CEO? Anyway.
Right.
Get a tech CEO. Stop getting the sales guy to be the CEO and get someone who cares about tech.
We talked about...
That goes for Congress too.
Oh, that's... which Congress are you talking about? US Congress or Australia?
Yeah, well, we're in America, so US Congress. What is it, 3% of they did a study of like 16 out of all Congress people, 500 Congress people, over 16 of them have a tech or engineering background.
I will be surprised actually.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and we are talking about United States of America.
America, right?
Which is a software.
They're all lawyers and farmers. And
yes. That's actually, I think now you're a citizen. You should run for Congress.
I am not. No, I'm not a citizen. I'm a citizen of something, but I'm not a citizen of America.
Oh, you should become so that we can vote for you. We touched upon some broad topics. We talked about Far Cry. We talked about building a bunker for you. Anything else that you think we should have touched upon today? I mean, there are a lot of things we could talk about.
Yeah,
but
you should play Last of Us. That's an incredible game. All the Uncharted games, the Tomb Raider game.
So Uncharted, I am a huge fan of.
If you watched the Tomb Raider movie and didn't get it, then you probably haven't watched the last two Tomb Raider games.
I have not
because they kind of set up this movie.
No, I have not watched the movie yet. Yeah. I have played the Uncharted game religiously.
Right. So the new Tomb Raider games are like Uncharted.
Yes.
They're cinematic.
Okay.
They take you through this always just surviving sort of story of, and obviously everyone dies, and these magnificent scenes, like incredible art rendered in 3D that inevitably gets destroyed before civilization can ever see it again.
So should we kind of have some kind of a play fest at next CloudFoundry Summit also, where people can just
it's interesting because the idea of having a hackathon or a play fest or something like you have to go to do this. I mean, I hack all the time. Like that's how I solve problems. I don't personally need to go to a conference to sit down and go, right now I can hack.
Yes.
I'm super glad that it's useful to some people.
When do you get time to play?
The days are long, You can sneak an hour or two in at the end of the day. The key is to not play addictive games.
Yes.
That's why I like the story-driven games in part because they're finite. You can be done.
Right.
Aha! I win. Far Cry. Pretty surprising end to Far Cry. It was kind of okay.
I deliberately have not watched the end. I just stopped that part. But I like open world games where I can go and do my own thing. With Far Cry 5
but you always have control over the end, right? You can get back to the main story and just finish this thing.
I like those kind of games,
Whereas the multiplayer, just killing everyone, like there's no end to it. And,
yes.
That's a little more difficult, more concerning to be addicted to.
Right, and it's kind of, I feel mindless, just you're shooting,
My
you're
wife,
not playing.
When I'm busy playing, not busy playing, but when I'm in the midst of one of these games I'm playing and trying to finish, she knows. She can notice that I'm a little impatient, like, all right, children, to bed now. Daddy has many people to kill.
Oh, no, that doesn't happen in my place because my wife doesn't even know I'm playing game.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I refer to computer games. I've got some people to kill.
Yeah. It's a very good stress, release, when you have
many people need killing, and I'm the guy to do it.
Sometimes, yeah, it's a bit of the word. Anyway, it was nice talking to you, nice and fun. It is the kind of interview or interaction I was expecting, because as I said, I'm a huge fan of your, online presence, but I never met you in person.
That's been good.
So I was looking forward to it. So it was, you met my expectations.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.